All right, this is section 11.2, day 3, and today we're going to talk about one-sided limits. So in our previous lesson, we were talking a lot about as we approach a limit, how we want to approach from both sides, and as we approach from both sides, if our fingers don't match, then we don't have a limit. Today we're just going to be taking away one of the fingers. So you're just going to be approaching from either the positive side or the negative side of a particular limit. So this first one says, can you approach, the limit as x approaches 0, and then it's got this little negative on it. So you have to look really close at these ones. And this one says 0 from the left. So if here is my stick, here's my line of 0. And as I draw my line on 0, I actually hit two places, that one and this one. And I only want to approach from the left. So if I was going to think about that from the negative side, only from the left, which means I can't look at anything that is on the right-hand side, including that dot, because I can't travel there if I take away all of this. So the only thing I can look at is this one, and it is traveling from the left towards 0, and it is pointed right at -3. Next up, I've got infinity. So here x is 1 and 2 and 5 and 10 and 100 and 1,000,000 and 1,000,000,000. So out this way is infinity. I just look for the only part of the graph that is headed out that way. And it's this little piece right here, and it looks like it is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -7. Just looks like it's going to be -7 all the way out to infinity. Next up is 5, but this one actually has a plus sign. So it is saying as you approach 5, do that from the right. So we're going to approach 5 from the right-hand side. So here is 5 for me. So imagine I'm drawing my stick right here. I am at 5. I actually hit 3 different things, 2 open circles and a closed dot. I don't care about just floating dots. There's no way that I can approach that dot. There's no road leading into that dot. So I actually can pretend like it's not even there. It's not useful to me. So these are the 2 that I have. I can approach both of those, but the only one that is coming from the right-hand side is this one. And as it comes towards 5, it's diving down to -1. 8 from the positive side. So 8 has my asymptote. That's already my dotted line. That's my stick. There's 8. And I'm approaching from the right side only, so it means I'm just going to cover up the left. This is the only piece I can use. And as I try to get closer to 8, I am forced to go straight down to -infinity. Next up is 0, but from the right-hand side. So here is my 0. I have a left and a right. We've already done the left-hand side. That's this one. So from the right would be this. And as I come towards 0, it looks like I'm pointed right at 3. Now I have -infinity, so we'll just go out the other way. So here's -5 and -10 and -1,000,000, 1,000,000,000 going out this way. And the only part of the graph that's going out there is this one, and it looks like it's going to hover right about 0. Next up is 5, but from the left. So here is my 5 line, my dotted line or my stick. We've got those 3 values again. I don't care about a single dot. This is from the left, this is from the right. So kind of even if I covered these up and you're only looking at those 2 chunks, there's only one that comes from the left, or this is from the right-hand side. This one comes from the left-hand side. So it looks like we're crawling up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next up, I've got 8 from the left. That's where my dotted line asymptote was. From the left, so I want to choose the one that's crawling towards 8, and this one is forced upward for positive infinity. Next up is 0, but it does not have that designator, which means this requires a finger from both sides. And here's 0, so that's where my stick would be. And as I approach both sides, my fingers do not come together. This one's way down here, this one's up here, so this limit does not exist. When you are doing one-sided limits, if you happen to do the left of 0, and you happen to do the right of 0, and they are not the same thing, so one was -3, one was +3, there's no way you can have a limit because your 2 sides were telling you 2 different stories. So that's why that's D and E. We're going to do the same thing for 8. I'll just do that one next. So 8's right here. When we approached from the right, we got one answer. When we approached from the left, we got a whole nother answer. So that means D and E. Don't even have to look at the graph to tell, because both my left and right hands told me a different story. So if I went to the graph and did 8, here would be my approach, and I'm going in opposite direction, so that's a D and E. Next, we've got the limit as x approaches 3. So put my stick right at 3, or put my pencil at 3 right there. And as I approach both sides, my fingers are coming together, so it looks like that limit is at 6. Next up, I've got approaching 5. 5 is where those 3 dots were. Again, I do not care about a floating dot. That's not useful to me. I can't travel to it. But it does look like my left side's going up, my right side's coming down, so that limit does not exist. I could also tell that from my 2 5s, one left, one right, and they went to different stuff. So there's no way my limit can exist. Domain, just a little refresher on that. If we go as far left as we can go, that will be negative infinity. And kind of rolling our pencil, that idea that I kind of move across the graph, looks like it stops at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, negative 6. Then we pick up again at negative 5. That's going to be a bracket, negative 5. And then we go until this one, but we've got a filled in, so we keep going. Got a filled in, so we keep going. It looks like we're going to make it until 8, where that asymptote is. And then we're going to pick up on the other side of that asymptote and go until that dot, but we're keeping going, so that goes to infinity. Range, where I'm going to get you on the test, is I kind of stopped this arrow purposefully short so that your eye would be drawn to this, but that arrow means it's going on forever. And this arrow means it's going on forever. So the fact that those two, they overlap each other and they're headed forever, means that this is all real numbers. So those are your one-sided limits. You're just approaching from only one side. As long as you're approaching from only one side, you will always have a limit. The only time you have D&E is when you are not approaching from one side, because that requires both of your fingers to come together and meet.